The QPR podcast is sponsored by Grant Harrod Lerman Davis, accountants and tax advisors for individuals and businesses. The Harrod in that title is Jeremy, who's a partner and mad QPR fan who goes to both home and away games. If you want expert advice and a free consultation, phone Jeremy on 01895 633 033 or go to ghld.uk.com.
QPR, QPR, Sport Rangers are on the up and up. QPR, QPR, now we're heading for European Cup.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of the QPR podcast. It still remains nameless, but we think we're called Up in All Ours. I don't know. Fraser will be able to tell you. I'm joined tonight by two QPR fans and an ex-QPR player. First of all, Chris Mendes, ITV Sport, all-round good egg. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm not bad, not bad. How's life treating you?
Yeah,
really?
Not too bad. Been working on rugby a lot, so I haven't been able to go to QPR for every game, so looking forward to that being over.
I like rugby until Ireland lose, and I completely lose interest. And every time I watch them, they lose, so I'm a jinx. Chris Charles.
Hello.
You've been a while. You've been off enjoying yourself in life.
I haven't really. I had to work last time out. I think that's why I missed the podcast. So, like Chris, nothing exciting.
Paying the mortgage.
Indeed, I am. Yes.
Good one.
And my name is Chris, but please don't boo me. That's all I ask.
Please stop working on jokes.
Yeah.
Please stop it. And we have Bradley Allen, of course, from the famous family. We're trying to work out, is there another family that's got as many footballers as that your fold have? That gene is pretty damn special, Bradley. And welcome to the podcast, by the way.
My pleasure. It's good to be here and looking forward to plenty of QPR chat this evening.
Yeah. You certainly get that.
We said Ferdinand, didn't we? But they fell short in the end. So we think Alan is still on top.
How many did you get to in the end with your lot?
6, I think it was.
I think it was 6, yes.
Yeah.
It's not bad, is it? It's not bad at all. Most people struggle to get one footballer in a family. Right, you went Saturday.
I did.
Go on then.
Well, it's the last time I was on here, we'd just scored 4 and beaten Bolton 4-3, and yet all everyone was talking about was the booing that I didn't hear that time because I was in the school end. Well, I definitely heard it on Saturday, unfortunately. And again, that seems to be the main topic of conversation, even though we won 3-0. You can dress it up any way you like, but and I think we were saying before, if you pay your money, then you're entitled to have your say on how you think the club is run. But I think it sort of crossed the line. It was a bit uncomfortable on Saturday. It was almost like persecution. I think I went with my father-in-law and who thoroughly enjoyed the game, and as I did. I think first half we were on top. We could have been a couple up, but just lack of finishing, one of those things. But I did think that we'd done enough, and I felt quite comfortable we'd carry on in the second half and get the goals. But yeah, so he left thoroughly entertained, but he just couldn't understand the booing, and I had to try and explain to him that it was our fans asking the referee to send our own player off. I tried to tell him about 3 or 4 times, tried to explain it, but I gave up in the end because he didn't understand it any more than I did, really. And I don't know, it was almost like sort of Lord of the Flies mentality to me. It was uncomfortable, and I just hope his wife and his kids weren't in the crowd because it wasn't very nice.
Bradley, as a player, it can't be good when you hear the boot, because you hear everything at Rangers, don't you? I mean, you can hear probably everything, even from South Africa Road, on that pitch. So, did you ever come across that in your time at Rangers? I can't remember that really when you were playing, but
possibly the last season that I was at the club, the 95-96 season, which sadly was a relegation season. I departed in the March, but that got pretty hostile at times. Performances, especially in some of the home fixtures, dropping points, the frustration of the supporters often come out, and individual players could sometimes be criticised, and the problem that we had then was obviously the lack of experience within that team, and that can weigh you down. It can sort of be a burden of responsibility on your shoulders unless you have some senior figures within the dressing room that can cope with that. It can be pretty tough for young players to deal with.
Because Hitley was pretty much the blunt then, wasn't he? because to be fair, we did side him on crutches, which is a bit weird. He came on the pitch. Remember that crutches like this is not going to work. And that I do remember that season, and we lost to Chelsea as well, that was a bit of a nightmare that they probably got crucified after. But then at the end of the season, when we got beat at Forest, we were singing everyone's name, and everyone was. I know you'd left by then, but it's just weird. I'm uncomfortable with it for two reasons. I don't believe you should boo your own players, because you might as well just jump on the pitch and stick a ball in it for the other side, and also, it's gone beyond booing, it's venomous, I think, and I think there's a real nasty edge to it. We were only saved by the fact that for some reason franchise fans decided to beat each other up. Can't get my head around that one at all.
We haven't done a podcast since the game against Sheffield Wednesday either, and there was quite bad booing in that game as well when Ramsey made a substitution.
Yeah,
and that made me feel a bit uncomfortable, and at the final whistle as well. I don't really understand what fans are expecting this season, because Sheffield Wednesday are a decent side. They'll probably finish in the top half, and then MK Dons not so much, but we beat them. I think it kind of just shows where we'll be this season. We'll probably be around mid-table. I don't know what people are expecting. It's quite difficult. There's quite a lot of changes in the summer, just because of the way that the club. They always seem to have upheaval in the summer. It's not easy to get them gelling straight away.
But also, I suppose our problem was we replaced players who didn't go. Do you know? Then instead, and that's it. If you look at it on paper, we have got a hell of a squad for the Championship. Probably one of the best squads you could possibly have. Maybe full-back wise, we're a wee bit short. But if you actually look at most of that squad, it's fairly decent in fairness, and we should
at the same
perhaps
time,
people expecting to be challenging first or second place, when it's always going to be a problem, because I don't think its ability is our problem. I think there's still a toxic hangover from the mercenaries still floating around the place, and I don't know how we're going to get rid of that or what we have to do, but I feel for anyone that gets booed every time they do something slightly wrong the way that we're doing it. To get your own players, try and get your own players sent off. I mean, that's mad.
I think one of the main reason people were being on Tuesday was because we had one striker on the pitch and no strikers on the bench, and Ramsey brought off our only striker for a midfielder. And I couldn't understand it before the game how we couldn't get a striker onto the squad, onto the bench.
I agree with that. I mean, I was at the game on Tuesday, and it did seem a bit of a weird one, taking off Jet, putting on Fur. I mean, I know people say Fur's ability, he scored a few good goals, and he can play as a striker, but I mean, we're not Barcelona, so playing with a false nine on a Tuesday night against Sheffield Wednesday seemed a bit weird. But at the same time, the performance Jet put in on Saturday and his work rate, the brilliant goal he scored, there's an argument for saying that if he hadn't been taken off when he was on Tuesday, that he might not have been as energised. And Ramsey came out after and said Jet had been carrying a knock. He didn't explain why Poulter wasn't on the bench, although Poulter had his own feelings to say about that on Twitter, which quickly got removed, which was quite funny. And I don't really have a problem with that. I think it shows.
I have a massive problem with that.
Well, I think it's a heat of the moment thing. I think it's a player. I don't know what Bradley thinks, but it's a player. I won't tell you exactly, but the nature was he wasn't very pleased to be subbed, to not even be on the bench, and made it quite plain on Twitter. But I think he's like the red mist came down, and after about 10 minutes it got taken down. But I think at least he's showing he's not just here for the money. He actually wants to play for QPR in a perverse sort of way. I know it's not the right way to do it.
I see him play earlier on in the season in the League Cup down at Yeovil, and he is a player that probably needs the opportunity to play, and if he's being starved of minutes on the pitch, then he's going to, from an individual point of view, become increasingly frustrated, and obviously he's voiced his disapproval at not being involved. Is that the right way? Well, probably not, because you want, as best possible, a harmonious camp. You want the players to be getting on and batting one another's calls and hoping that they can get some consistency to the results. I think the problems certainly go back to like you say, to the summer, the upheaval. Obviously, they did get some of the big hitters off the wage bill, which has helped. There are still some at the club on incredible wages, really, for a club of QPR's side, and new players coming in. That does take time to gel, to get an understanding. I think that's 2 clean sheets in the last 2 games, having been so poor in the Fulham game, in the London derby. I think that's a positive to take, and that's something that's certainly got to be built on, because if you've got any aspirations of being playoffs or even challenging for promotion defensively in the Championship, you've got to be pretty sound.
I would always say say the best way to answer being dropped or not being in the squad is to do what Emmanuel Thomas did, come in and score an absolutely outstanding goal. Much better than using Twitter, in my humble opinion, but what do I know?
Of course, I agree with you, but what I'm saying is I know it's wrong, but at least it's showing he's got a bit of
have a bit more respect for your manager and the team.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
I'm not having a go.
Okay.
Thanks, Paul. We're going to keep it nice. We're not going to be hostile tonight to each other.
We'll do that afterwards.
I think everyone's
Milton Keynes fans. Yeah,
everyone's already booing us already. Right, let's go and speak to.
I was just going to say the last bit about Tuesday to mention was that Clint Hill's Hong Kong Phooey impersonation. How the hell he got away with that, I do not know. And I presume because the referee saw it, there's no further action.
I actually thought
taken.
Clint was a bit worried he lost his contact lens and was trying to help him find it.
Rob Green actually came out and defended him, saying he's completely faultless for that. So
okay, well, we'll hear what he has to say in a second.
Yeah, good link. We're going to speak to Rob Green. Rob, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Really, really appreciate it. It's always good to have a player on and to get a player's perspectives from the game on Saturday. I've got to ask the worst question ever, which is the atmosphere as bad as everyone's saying it is, and is it affecting the players? You don't have to answer that, but it's just let's throw it out there for this first question.
The atmosphere in regarding where? Sorry.
At home games, because people are talking about it all over Twitter and all of the message boards. It's a wee bit toxic. It's a wee bit. The booing's a bit much. It's getting the players.
Sorry, from the. I thought you meant from within the dressing room. No.
Oh, you can tell us about that as well.
Well, I don't know what you've heard. It doesn't help. You can understand. I can understand people's frustrations. I can understand the sort of level expectation of where the fans expect us to be. I think the realisation of the past few weeks has been that this is a new team. It's a completely new squad. I mean, I played in the game, and I think I was one of 4 or 5 players in the starting 11 who actually were at the club last season, and that shows the level of change that there's been from top to bottom. Now, that's happened year after year that I've been at the club, and it seemed to be sort of part of the modern history of QPR, which is, it doesn't always lead to success. It brings a level of disruption, and there isn't the continuity and the stability within the club that's needed for success. Now, whether success leads to stability or stability leads to success is something you can argue over, but I think that it's just that realisation that maybe this side is where it is, and we still don't know where we can go this season. We're 12 games in, something like that, and we've got a half a new squad, half a new side, and sometimes it doesn't click overnight. And I can understand the frustrations of fans, and I can understand that they were playing against. We were playing against the likes of your big clubs in the Premier League and last season, and competing, and having some great games there. But at the same time, we're walking off the pitch at half time, and it's 0-0. It's kind of, you can kind of, it's not always going to be a walk in the park, particularly at home when teams are coming and are happy to take a point from Loftus Road. So I think there's sort of an element of, you've got to get a balance of these things.
No, thank you. Great answer.
And has Chris been okay? Is it talked about in the dressing room at all, the atmosphere, or is it just something that you leave on the pitch and just carry on as normal?
I think we don't particularly address it. It's not something that affects us as a group. I've been in situations where it's been a lot worse, and there's a real apparent need to address it. But at the moment, it's minorities, and that it takes a lot more. It's a lot easier to make a noise booing than it is to cheering. I mean, you only need sort of 1 in 10 people to sort of make a real noise, and you think that there's a majority of the noise coming from. Sorry, the noise is coming from the majority of the crowd. crowd, when actually it's not. It's a small minority, and I think the reaction towards that noise has been sort of one of support, and that was the overriding one that we got on Saturday. And I think, the manager's been fine with it. He knows his role. He's been around in football long enough. If he hasn't been he's been a player for years. He's been a coach for years. He's worked with first teams before, and in pressure situations. So it's not like we're walking out on the pitch and knowing that a bit naively walking out going, oh well, even if we don't win, everybody's going to be happy. It's not. We know that there is a level of performance that's expected, and when that comes from ourselves as much as anybody else in the crowd or anywhere else. So I think the internal pressure that is put on the group by the professionalism and the wanting and the willing to do well is going to be greater or is equal to any coming from any other direction.
Rob, you mentioned that only 4 or 5 of the team who started on Saturday were there last season, and you were one of those. Did you have the opportunity to leave the club in the summer for West Ham or Chelsea? I know there were 2 clubs that were linked with you.
Not so much as the clubs that they didn't want me to leave. It's kind of it doesn't. Sometimes it's one where this whole player power thing and stuff like that. It comes into power and into play with to come up with examples, your Raheem Sterling's, where a player might force a move, or Mourinho who comes out and makes a rash remark on Twitter, and that sort of thing comes about, but it doesn't happen everywhere all the time. And you may hear of inquiries, you may hear of newspaper reports and things like that. And I mean, Les Ferdinand called me, and the owners said to me that they didn't want me to leave, and that was the end of it. I've always said I am a QPR player, and wherever I've been, I am until I'm told I'm not. It's not like it's not like I'm unhappy. It's not like I'm wanting to get away. It was a matter of the club wanting to keep me, and that was my job. That's where I'm employed, and I've put my heart and soul into the club for the last 3 years, and carry on doing the same until I'm told otherwise.
The thing is, Rob, joining Chelsea, did you really want to have a relegation battle? No.
Well, it was amazing when you thought. It was surprising when I was surprised when Asmir Begovic signed. You thinking, blimey, he's gone from playing every week in a good Premier League side in Stoke to one where he probably won't get a game, and then ironically he's played pretty much every game this season. So I don't think anybody sort of could forecast that, or nor could they forecast the form that Chelsea have had, really. And it's been one of the talking points so far, hasn't it?
Well, I've enjoyed it. So I carry on.
Rob, Neil Warnock joined the club not long ago on a part-time basis. Have you met him yet, and what kind of impact has he had so far?
Yeah, he came in on Friday and Saturday for the game on the weekend, and he came over and just had a chat with the lads and as a general, and got to know a few of us individually. I mean, I've known him as an enemy on the touchline rather than a colleague, sort of over the last 15-20 years. So it's been sort of for the first time. You kind of build up an impression of someone over X amount of years, and you realise you've never actually spoken to them other than probably exchanging a few heated words down the tunnel or something like that. And it's refreshing to meet someone someone so well ingrained in football and spent their life doing it and having the roles that he's had and the experiences that he's had. So we'll see what the briefing is and what his role will bring. But I mean, to have someone of that experience come on board, it is great, and his input over a very limited amount of time on Friday and Saturday was fantastic, and one that you'd like to think can only aid our improvement and help our sort of our quest for this season.
Amen to that. Rob, I was going to say, you've had two clean sheets in 2 games. I mean, it's sort of uncharted territory for us this season. And this isn't a slight on any of the other players, but has it been good to have Clint Hill back in front of you?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me this question. I think Hilly's coming back in a great moment, and he's obviously, year after year proven what he can do, and I was speaking about him at the weekend, and he's one of them guys that, as a goalkeeper, you only have one voice, and sometimes you need 2, in that you need one for one player, one for the rest of the team. But with Hilly, it's the other way around. You don't really need to tell him anything, because he's been there, he's done it, he knows his own game, he knows where he should be, he knows he's a canny operator in the way he operates around the centre forward. He can pick and choose his battles, as you saw on Tuesday up against Newhoo in particular on Tuesday against Sheffield Wednesday. And then he can be a bit cuter at times and not go up against, maybe give himself a yard or read the game better against someone a bit quicker. But it's coming time that we've addressed a couple of things as a defence, as a team, before the Sheffield Wednesday game, and just made a couple of alterations, which obviously coincided with Hilly coming into the team, and I think those things we've just focused a bit more on. It's not sort of groundbreaking stuff. And it sounds obvious, but for maybe for our defenders to stay a bit more central and to protect the goal a bit more and not get dragged over sort of in across with the ball so much, and with that it just allows us to defend the goal, and I think that's coincided with Clint coming back, who is also an excellent operator of doing that, and he doesn't want to get down the channel and get exposed by a flying winger or anything like that, so he's going to sit more central, and he just makes the defence that bit more robust. It makes it a bit more solid at the back and a bit more of a solid unit, and obviously with the you look at the last 2 games, the lack of opportunities both Sheffield United and NK Dons had in comparison to ourselves. It was that was pleasing, and the only disappointing thing was that we only took 4 points from the 2 games. Yeah,
and this is a much easier question to answer. Your new chant, England's number 6. You seem to be quite enjoying that.
Yeah. It's I've never enjoyed the number 1 shout. I think it's a lot more accurate, and one that I've had. The away fans give it to me in various figures, various numbers that are thrown at me. So, amongst other things, it's fine, and. If you can't have a laugh at yourself, then you can't have a laugh at anybody. And you try and have a good relationship with the fans. Particularly as a goalkeeper, you spend a lot of the time standing around, not doing a lot, or seemingly not doing a lot. It kind of you're that bit closer to the fans, and a bit of humour in there kind of. It might dilute some sort of angrier people within the crowd anyway. So anything to aid the cause, really.
Good on you.
One question I've got for you, Rob, but it's a bit of a strange one, but then I am strange, so don't be surprised by that. Did I hear right that your brother-in-law is a season ticket holder at Rangers?
Yeah, he was. He's being married to my sister, and then subsequent kids and things like that have put pay to it. His grandparents lived on Loftus Road.
All right.
And the whole family's QPR fans. I came to some games with him whilst I was playing for West Ham, so I knew the players quite well when I moved here, and there was so there's a vested interest. My nephew is now a full-blown QPR member and fan, and they came up to the Birmingham game, and they came to the MK Dons game as well. So they can come whenever they can, really. And so it's like most people, I think it's more thrown upon them by choice as being a QPR fan.
Because there's nothing like it. It's the greatest team ever. But I'm bound to say that it must be awkward, though. Like after a bad game, like if, when you see him for family dues and all that sort of thing, or is he professional enough not to sulk?
No, he's like I said, he's I think how old is he now? 44. He's been a long-term sufferer of a QPR fan for a long time. So he's been there with the good times and the bad. He was there when I think lost to Cardiff in the playoff final in the old what was Division 2 or Division 3, whatever it is, League 1 now. He was watching then. So he's had worse times, no matter how bad it's been whenever I've been playing there. So it's he kind of takes a sense of perspective from it, and is one that enjoys the good times, but it's also when it's not so great, he knows that there's been worse.
Do you know that's a great way of ending this interview, Rob, and thank you for coming on, because it's true. I mean, we've all said and done. We have had administration, we've had no players because we couldn't play them. We've had far worse times, and it's good to know that you actually know that as a player as well, because things were pretty grim for a few years at QPR. We nearly lost our club, so well said in that one. And Friday, Brentford, please. Just do your best. I know you'll do your best, but Brentford, just it's we as players, you understand it's a local one, isn't it? It's about as local as you can get. It's I played in a East Anglian derby that was 45 miles apart, which it seems as a derbies go, it seems a bit of a strange one, but this is about as local as you can get, and we're under no illusions that we'll be going into the Lions' Den there, because it's they're the club who've come up. They did well last season. We've come down from the Premier League. It doesn't take a genius to work out where the motivations all lie for them. But then don't need that long a memory to realise in the last it didn't go according to plan against Fulham, and it's something that we're fully aware of as players, and we've now got a couple of decent results under a belt, and are looking forward, and it's another step, and one that we were wanting to put right. Well, fella,
nice one, mate.
Thank you so much, and best of luck on Friday. Just pretend it's Wembley and Samoa's up front, and we'll be grand.
Okay, no problems, will do. Thanks very much.
Cheers, pal. Take it easy, pal.
Cheers.
Thanks a million. Bye now. What a nice fella.
They're very nice, man.
Just blows it, and he understands the history of the club as well.
Yeah.
Now, Bradley, you know Chris Ramsey quite well. Just speak as you find, fella, basically. How did you find him at Tottenham?
Yeah, worked with him for nearly 4 years at Spurs Academy. He was, an excellent person to learn ideas from a coaching point of view. He has vast experience, across levels. He is a developer of players, and that's something that I think just possibly some of the supporters maybe don't have a clear understanding of concept of the direction that maybe, and the decisions that the club undertook in the summer, and Les Ferdinand and Chris worked very closely together at Spurs, with the under-21 team, and helping move along and sending players out on loan and allowing them to get first team experience. And I think what he knows is that he's under pressure. He's openly admitted that. He knows the expectations of the supporters, but I just hope that it's not a common theme now within any level of football. There's a little bit of time and patience shown, because I do believe if they can improve that side of things from the academy, it's been too long, far too long, 10, 15, 20 years since homegrown players that have an affinity, know what it means to play for Queen's Park Rangers again. That will not take overnight. I first started coaching when I finished at Spurs 2004. You got players in the first team now. That's some 11 years later. That's how long it takes. Player development. It doesn't happen within a year or two. Now, the QPR supporters, I think they would love to see some of their own coming through, some local boys who know what it means to play at Loftus Road in front of such fabulous support, and I think eventually that's where Chris and Les wants to get the club back to that sort of environment with 3 or 4 that are going to become the heartbeat of the side. But I think initially it's certainly going to be a season of consolidation, like we've already said, and I think he knows that, but it's just whether the club are going to have the patience in him.
And that's the thing, they do seem to have certainly last week hit the panic button. Whatever happened, it's like we've now changed or direction, as it were, and the direction now is going to be promotion. Well, that wasn't Chris's remit at the start of the season. The remit was to consolidate, mid-table, build and develop.
Yeah, I was asked this question, only behind the scenes. Those people will know. Is Les Ferdinand going to be happy with Neil Warnock's appointment role? I can't answer that question. I thought with Les going in there, this director of football capacity, he was the one that was calling the football decisions. Now is that area going to be a little bit clouded with Neil Warnock's arrival? How much influence, how much input does Neil want to manage again, or does he want to be at this lofty perch and he's actually going to be making crucial decisions? I think only time will tell with that. But let's hope with these 2 results, a big derby on Friday. I think that's a really important game.
Massive.
Chris will know that. Les will know that. Hopefully the players can come through and they can start to have a good run between now and Christmas.
Yeah.
But you're speaking about Neil Warnock. I don't know how well, if at all, you know him, but essentially, as I can understand, what we've been told is he's essentially a sort of part-time number 2. What I can gather. Do you think it's a good move by the club or not?
Well, I said before, when he was appointed, the state of the club, the position that the club found in itself at that particular time, Neil Warnock was absolutely the perfect fit for QPR. No nonsense. He didn't care about the powers that be at the time. He dealt with them. He had the personality, he had the bravado to deal with them. He made crucial decisions. He obviously had, along the spine of the team, the Dogs of War, your Clint Hills, your Sean Derrys of this world, and it served its purpose in that championship winning season.
True.
Absolutely perfect. He got the very best out of Adel Taarabt. He managed him brilliantly, and Neil knows what he's doing at this level. Perhaps the challenge of the Premier League, where tactical acumen needs to be a little bit greater, and rather than the blood and thunder approach that he had in that championship season, and dealing with even bigger players with bigger egos on bigger salaries, perhaps that was a little bit new to Neil, even though he's had years and years of experience. Now he's back in his comfort zone as such, because he knows what it's all about in the championship. He knows what it requires over the duration of the season. So I think if there can be a marriage of convenience, if there is such a thing, with him, Chris and Les, then it can work, that relationship. But we shall see how that transpires.
It's got to have structure more than anything, surely. I do feel for... I've said this for weeks, but for Chris, I think decision-wise, he's made some rickets, and let's not beat around the bush. There's been a few things he's done of like playing with no striker at home, kind of people scratching their head, but the venomous abuse that he's got I personally think is wrong, and I think it should stop. I think we should give him and Neil and Les a chance to settle down, let the dust settle, and then see where we are around Christmas time in January. And if we don't go up, it's not the end of the world, because it gives us a chance then to go up stronger the next season. It's not always about promotion and relegation. Maybe that's the thing. We're from a breed of QPR fans, Chris. Let's be fair. We're old friggers. Let's be honest. We've been around the block a few times. We were just happy to win a game. I remember going to Highbury and being pleasantly surprised when yourself scored, young Kevin scored, and Andy Impey scored. And what a lovely day that was. Yeah. And we all went home very, very happy, because Rangers were capable. But it wasn't an expensive side, and it certainly wasn't a well-paid side. But you give a shite.
Yeah, but those heady days that Jerry Francis built a team over a period of time.
Yeah, That's true.
He recruited players. He identified players for certain positions, bolstered the squad. There was young players. We improved. We gained experience. Obviously, we had the focal point of Les in attack, but something was constructed over a period of time. And I think that's really what QPR have got to be brave. They've got to have the conviction to follow that through. Now, I know in some supporters' eyes, they're not prepared for that patience. They just want in an immediate return, but it's not straightforward. I think as worst case scenario, as long as they remain a championship club, then I think they will be better for it next season. I think they'll be more competitive. If there is a position and they improve and they get close, because it's not a great league, it's very much of a muchness from top to bottom. And if you can consistently find results, then they could still get into the playoffs. I'm not so sure about automatic. I think, if they were to lose Charlie Austin in January, they had one proven striker at that level. That's an area I think that they need to address, more goals in the side.
Agreed. But then again, saying that, your brother scored an FA Cup semi-final goal as well. I mean, who would have thought the QPR, well, for a start as well, in them days would have achieved such great... I mean, that's the thing about football. Teams like QPR, and dare I say it, I don't like them, Norwich, could challenge the big boys now and again and could actually get into Europe, whereas football I watched that Manchester derby yesterday, it was horrible. Football's changed, it's not the same, there was no tackles flying in, and it's almost become too corporate. I just wonder if Rangers are trying to get in with an elite system when we do go up too fast too soon, rather than build, except that we are a smaller club in London, and just try and do what Fulham did for a few years, which is just hang in the Premier League, but just do it slightly better and start proving homegrown players. Go back to how we used to be. It may be the way forward. It might not work in the modern game, Bradley, I don't know, but we can't keep spending hideous amounts of money in players.
But there have been clubs that have put sort of good models of structure in place, like your Swanseas, like your Stokes, that have progressed, that have had a style, a philosophy of football, and they've gone with that. Yeah. They've had managers that have stuck with that. They've recruited. They've been supported. They haven't really, deterred and come away from that. They've built new training grounds, so they've had a facility there as well. That's going to be a key issue, I think. Forget about a new stadium. QPR, don't even need to entertain that at the moment. What they need to do is have a good training base. I believe that the plans are close to going through for the new site out at Osterley. Get away from Harlington and start to move on from there. But again, that's going to take quite a long time to bear the fruits of it.
I agree that if we don't go up this season, then we'll be much stronger next year. And say if we do kind of get sixth place and somehow win the playoffs, then I think if we waited another year and went up automatically or went up, then we'd probably be in a better position if the club stick by their principles and and decide, and unless they just throw a load of money at it again and we're just back to square one. But
can't keep throwing money in players at it don't work. What we've got to do is throw ideas at it and ambition at it, but a different. And you're right, the training ground is so important, because Hollington may have a place to play, but not for a top championship, a Premiership club. That's for Lincolnshire. It's not good enough. And it would be great to have our own place again as well, where you can bring the kids down and they can see it and develop stuff. You're looking at a bit of paper there, Chris. Sorry.
No, I was just going to. I was just looking at something I've written down. I was going to quickly ask Bradley about London Derby, because we've got obviously got a big one coming up on Friday.
Are they not technically Middlesex?
Yeah, it's true.
Just saying.
But I mean, you wouldn't have played against Brentford. I think you did play.
Played once pre-season friendly.
Oh, okay.
Over at Griffin Park.
Okay.
That would have been very early 90s.
Yeah.
I think they probably would have been a League One team at that particular time, at that level.
But our London Derby record, that's what I was looking at. I mean, I'm not going to go through it all because it's but essentially, we haven't won a London Derby in 14. The last London Derby one was against Watford 2-1, 21st of April 2014. We've had 13 since then and either lost or drawn the lot. So, I mean, in terms of, there's clearly, I don't know, is there
that right?
Yeah? Is there unless soccer base, there are other sites?
No, I'm just staggered by that.
Yeah, well, I'll read you the full list if you want.
No, don't, it's just staggering.
Well, we haven't really got anyone in the team from around the area.
Does that help? Do you think, Bradley?
I think that's crucial. I think that's really important. And you talk about the training facility. I think help recruitment as well. Boys from the local area who join the club, and you know what it means, those derby influences and the importance of those games, and they're sort of, there's a knowledge there of who they're playing, and they're representing their supporters, and the fans want the bragging rights. They want to win those particular games, the importance of them, and sadly that is lost with the modern player, the younger player. It's a real pity.
Do you know what, we were talking about this earlier on in the pub while we were slipping our orange juices before we come and do the podcast. You said something very interesting about dear old Macca when he passed away, and when you went to Belfast, pretty much that whole squad was there was a real unity. I mean, even in this modern, you could see those boys just bonded. They talked. That they were a band of brothers. I can't really see the squads from the last 3 or 4 years meeting up one day and having a chinwag. They're all going to go different ways. And is that the way football is now, do you think?
No. You don't get that loyalty anymore. But we certainly had that. In those purple seasons, the squad, the group. I won't lie, we didn't all get on. We often clashed. We kicked the hell out of each other on a daily basis on the training pitch, but we knew from the dressing room, and certainly going out in the home fixtures at Loftus Road, we knew what we were representing. We knew what was expected of us, and we were pretty consistent in the standard that we hit most weeks. We disappointed at times. We had some poor performances, but it wasn't for the lack of trying. And I think where you've had for a period now at the club this chop and change nature, and some players who haven't known really about the history of QPR that have come in on these wages, that hasn't helped, and that's partly been the downfall and the spiral of disappointment, and that for my generation of QPR supporters, it must hurt them enormously. It must really does, especially when they've had the back in there. The money has been in the club, and they just haven't quite, had the right concepts and principles in place.
That's a brilliant point. And what was that? Are you doing some kind of weird disco dance? That's sorry, Chris. Thanks for that, Chris. It was brilliant. Bonnie M will be in touch. What I was going to say is, what's your standout memory from Rangers? The one game that you remember that you will take with you to, or you talk about, or even think about still?
Well, I think it would be easy to remember 3 goals at Goodison against Everton.
Jesus, that was her. Yeah, sorry.
That from an individual point of view, but I think finishing 5th place as we did. The season, the results that we had, the team was brimming with confidence, and unfortunately because of the hooligan ban there, we would have actually played European football if that would have been allowed, because British clubs were banned at that particular time, and if you'd have achieved that now, that would have been Europa League football for QPR. They haven't had that for what, going back to the mid-70s. And that would have been a remarkable achievement. And I know the Premier League was slightly different then because of the types of teams that were then in it. Your Norwiches, your Oldhams, your Barnsleys. It was a different type of Premier League to what it is now, where it's awash with money. But there was special times, and perhaps the supporters then perhaps took things for granted and didn't really fully appreciate that spell at that time at the club.
Well, I always thought that was the best QPR side I've ever seen and never won anything, in my opinion. I wasn't here in 76, I was back in Northern Ireland, but I mean, that side was an amazing. How we never won anything, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. You speak often with Kevin Gallen, and he would have played in the quarter-final FA Cup game up at Old Trafford. And I think the thing is, that, if you ask the group of players, then maybe an even better cup run. I think we were good enough on one-off games to have progressed and maybe even got to a League Cup, FA Cup final at that time. I think we had the capability to do that, certainly with Les up top and scoring the goals.
It always just seemed to miss us, didn't it? Sorry, Chris.
No, I was just going to say, and just before we go, I mean,
We're not going yet, Chris.
Yeah.
We've got to the hours in first.
Yes, I know that. Yeah,
I'm trying to rush the show.
I was just.
You got something to do or something? Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I've got to get some washing on when I get home. No,
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was just going to say, you said you weren't all mates and you had fights on the training ground, or you could give your all in the training pitch, whatever. But generally, was it quite fun playing for QPR back then?
Yeah, we had a great team spirit. The varied personality across the playing staff. That helped and it enabled us to come together. And I think that was certainly a strength of Jerry Francis at the time. He was very well organised. He was respected. He'd played for the club himself in the glory years, early 70s, and had fine success. That he often reminded of us, of course, Jerry's way. But he was tremendous at the discipline and the camaraderie, the pre-season trips that we would had, and that all boded for the team ethic that was produced.
You make it misty-eyed. But apart from terrible Tuesday, obviously.
Terrible Tuesday, yeah. I'm not so sure if you could get away with that sort of training now, but it served its purpose. It had probably more of a psychological element than a physical element.
I thought you were going to say psychopathic.
Yeah, they're a little bit of that. But there were some smart players. They knew how to get themselves through that. Bless him, Macca. He was genius, and he would often masterly get through his 25 box-to-box runs, and then he'd get his day off on the Wednesday, and then he'd produce and roll up on the Saturday. He was just genius at that.
But that's what we miss. I mean, I can't imagine. I'm certainly pretty sure that Kev would be pretty last in them terrible Tuesdays. Would that be a fair assumption?
He wasn't bad. Bad. You had your flyers, Ian Holloway, Simon Barker, David Barsley. Andy Impey. They were all quick, powerful runners, and we could do that at a breeze. There were others that struggled, but that's the strength of your running ability. But it definitely helped, and it gave us a strong fitness base that we certainly used.
Well, London's top team. You can't argue with it, can you? Right, since Chris is trying to hurry us up because he's got some washing and he's going to dry or something, we'll do the hours end of the show then, I suppose. Right, go on then, Chris. As you got your drying.
Yeah, see you then. No, there's no hours end in particular. I just, for everybody that was booing, for everybody that was catcalling, and for all the sort of undercurrent of hatred that's running through the club, I just want to remember two things. We won 3-0 on Saturday and Chelsea lost. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that, really, whichever way you look at it. And if there's a pub on each corner of Brentford's ground on Friday, and if we win, I shall be in each and every one of them dancing on the tables, probably wearing less clothes in each one as I go along. So be aware of that.
We need initiative.
It's not going to happen, so don't worry. But just in case.
No, you just said it. You just said it, Chris. That's happening. That is happening, and we're videoing it for the podcast and putting it on the website.
Okay,
it's happening. If we do that, if we win,
I didn't say naked, by the way.
Don't care. You're dancing on tables. That's going to be bad enough. Yeah. Jesus.
I remember the last time I did that was when we lost to Wimbledon 2-1 in the FA Cup 6th round. I think it was. We took about 10,000.
12,000.
And I was leading the singing in some pub or another. Anyway,
brilliant. I've got a terrible mental image now that may stay with me for a while. Chris.
My last memory of Brentford away, I think Mark Bircham scored in the last minute. Great goal as well. So
brilliant.
More of the same on Friday would be good. Doesn't seem like a good time to be playing them. They've just won 3 on the bounce, got rid of the manager. But it would make beating them even better.
It's quite bizarre, really. Bradley, have you got anything you'd like to add as an afterthought to the podcast? Your message for QPR fans about Friday or anything like that?
Well, I think I can understand their frustrations, but I just hope that there is their patience moving forward. It's still a fabulous football club, and one would hope that it can still retain its identity. I think that's important. Don't lose sight of, you know, the history of the club and some of the great players that he's had down the years. I know on Saturday they had some of those from the 70s team, didn't they? Paraded out on the pitch, which was a fantastic touch, and all of those sort of things are really important. Even though that the club is trying to move forward and become more modern, I don't think that you can ever forget some of the times that have gone before.
Do you know what? It's a great. I wonder what those lads thought Saturday when it all started to go a wee bit pear-shaped. But do you know what? My hours end of the show is 2 points. I always say the club don't do enough about our history, and I hammer them. But well done, everyone at Rangers on Saturday, to get Sheila Morrison back, to get the 76 lads back, to give the ground that lift. Fair play, well done, absolutely wonderful. Yeah. And more of the same, and maybe get the 82 cup final squad down one day. That'd be nice to have them go round the ground and just. I know it's not an anniversary, just why not? You know, we've had glory. Let's celebrate our glory days. It's not always about. And
to be fair, the club have been a lot better about.
Of course they have. I'm not saying they haven't, but I'm just putting that idea out there. Yeah. The other thing is, right? It's Brentford, right? To me, I once got chased by Brentford fans at King's Cross, which is a bit weird, and I thought it was Stoke City fans. That's how much Brentford meant to me back in the day. I hadn't a clue who they were, and I was just thinking, why are we being chased by Stoke City fans? It's like they're not the Brentford. I was like, oh, that's awkward. And I wasn't looking down on them. It's just that I'd never come across that rivalry because we hadn't played them for so long. The Bircham day, they absolutely hated us after that. I understand why they hate us, because Gregory tried to take over their club. I get it all, but you know, it'd be so good if everyone, for one night only, forget everything, get behind the team. No more of this booing, no more animosity, no more venomous. Give it to the other side for a change. Let's try that reverse psychology. Because by doing what we're doing sometimes, we're giving the other team a hand up. Let's not give them a hand up. It's about helping our team. So for Christ's sake, back the team Friday, and not Saturday because we're playing Friday, of course, and get behind them, and please, no more booing. Give everyone a chance. Patience was not just a Guns N' Roses song. It's a philosophy at QPR. Come on, you arse.
The QPR podcast is a West 12 Media and Burble Media production. The QPR podcast is sponsored by Grant Harrod Lerman Davis, accountants and tax advisors for individuals and businesses. The Harrod in that title is Jeremy, who's a partner and mad QPR fan who goes to both home and away games. If you want expert advice and a free consultation, phone Jeremy on 01895 633 033 or go to ghld.uk.com.
QPR, Fish Park Rangers.